Hi there, and welcome to the Warriors Amateur Anime Analysis, where I talk about animes that I am going to analyse and give my opinion on. And today's one, I don't think I'm going to have a lot to say on because it's a film that has had people talking about in a wee while, and it's another Studio Ghibli film by the name of Howl's Moving Castle, a Miyazaki film, and Studio Ghibli, of course. Miyazaki is pretty much one of the most well-known anime directors out there. Everyone's heard of him to an extent. He has this own unique style to him, and I do believe he's won an Oscar if memory serves me. Don't quote me on that, I do think he is. But whenever someone thinks about anime, they're normally going to talk about either one of the ones from the 90s, which is like Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon. But if they talk about anime movies, they normally go Miyazaki. Miyazaki, even I've heard of him before. I even watched Howl's Moving Castle. He is sort of like a director of anime that if you say something bad about him, prepare to have your balls cut off or your head cut off or something pretty much removed from your body, because he has a massive fan base. He also made Spirited Away and various others, which by the way I haven't seen. But he has one that you have to be it's sort of like infamous, not infamous as in bad, but infamous to try and review, because if you can't say something bad about him, his fan base is going to come and fucking kill you. But I'm honest, I'll give you my opinion on it. So, what is Howl's Moving Castle about? It's basically the premise about it is we're following the character, I believe her name is Sophie. I do apologize, yeah, Sophie, I do apologise, I'm horrible with names. And we mainly follow this character who basically, in this world where magic exists, is basically a curse is put upon her to make her have the appearance of a 90-year-old old lady. And really, the specifics of the curse aren't really given. Like, how this curse particularly works. The only thing we're given about this curse is it makes her look old and she can't tell anyone how she got the curse or what the curse is, because apparently this is what the curse does. Anytime she tries to talk about it, which is a grand total of once in the entire film, her lips go and she can't tell anyone, basically. And basically what she does is she sees this as like, okay, I need to get the fuck out of here. She actually leaves and tries to find a way to break the curse, i.e. find the witch that put the curse on her. Now, her character is very... not really... Best way I can describe as a bit of a wallflower. She's sort of like that person you wouldn't notice if you weren't looking for her. She's very normal in a sense of the way. And really, she's thrown into this world of magic when she stumbles across Howl's Moving Castle. And Howl is it's basically a magician, sorcerer, whatever you want to call it, who has a bit of a reputation for stealing beautiful young girls and basically, I think, taking their hearts, from what I can remember. And really, that's about... most people know about him. They also know he's very charismatic and very beautiful. It's a very vain character and portrayed. And that's basically the premise. As you say, she basically comes on as the cleaner, and then we find out about this world, which apparently is really at war at the moment. This entire area is at war, using technology and magic to fight this war. In fact, any magic user has been called to arms, basically, to fight against the war, and Howl is one of the few ones that refuses it, basically. He doesn't want to do it. He just wants to have fun. Like, that's the way he wants. He just wants to enjoy life a little bit and just be a bit of a chipper old bastard. That's about the best way I can say it. And Howl's character is very interesting because he's just this guy who knows how to use magic. He's very powerful, but he sort of like lives his life to the way he wants to live. He just comes and goes. When Sophie first arrives in his house, it's completely trash. Like, there's dust, dirt, muck. It's one of the most disgusting looking places imaginable. And then Sophie comes in and cleans the entire place up to Howl's approval and also Howl's disapproval. As she cleans up, she rearranges some of his chemicals and some of his hair dyes, I'm going to call it, but it's real potions. The result in his hair changing a different colour than what it was, and he goes very depressed about it because he's not beautiful anymore. Very vain character. And basically that's the overall premise, is that we're following these two characters. Now the main character is Sophie, and really the only theme I'm getting across that is Sophie needs to be a little bit more confident in herself. Like, she doesn't lack confidence, but she doesn't have the confidence to basically stand up and say, I'm beautiful. She doesn't consider herself beautiful. And that's one of the things she is to try and do. She's to build up the confidence and say, I'm beautiful the way I am and all that stuff. And she is a relatively attractive lady. That's the best way to describe it. A lot of the other girls in this one all have like poofy stuff, like the very Victorian looking dresses and hats. She just has a simple blue dress and a hat. That's about it. The most simplest hats. And that's about the way I can describe it. She's simple. But she has to learn to strive that, because as we find out throughout the story, as she becomes a bit more confident in herself, like defending Howl, as she basically goes to the place where magicians and sorceresses are being basically told to come. She basically stands up for Howl, and she gets to look like her old self again. No different, she still has her grey hair, but she starts to feel young again. And then as soon as that confidence goes, she's back to her old wee frail self. And really, that's there's a real mixture of themes in this anime, in my opinion, because it has a mixture of be confident in yourself, but also there's a bit of an anti-war message to it as well. As Howl doesn't want to fight, he doesn't want to be in the war. He just wants to enjoy life, and that's about it. And really, he does fight, but he fights first. He's fighting just to survive, just to be there. He avoids the fighting, but he does get involved every now and then. But then he's fighting for Sophie, because they do develop a relationship over the time. And really, that's the only thing I got across that is it does have a bit of an anti-war message, and also like things will happen for a reason and all that kind of thing. And also something about a little message about following your heart and how fickle sometimes emotions are. It's kind of interesting the way if you look into it, and I like it for that reason. And now, of course, I'm going to go into a wee bit more, but I'll talk briefly on the animation, the voice acting, and the music basically. The animation's fluid. It's a Ghibli film. It's bright colours, fascinating looking areas, very detailed. Especially Howl's castle is very interesting. The animation's top notch. I will say this, you will notice stuff that's meant to move and not meant to move. That always bugs me in any kind of anime, but I know that's just a budget thing. Like, they can't have everything look the same. Like, some things do look CG, like certain doors that are meant to open, you'll be like, oh, that door's meant to open. Like, that's just a wee nitpick of mine, I noticed, but that's just me. If it's meant to move, it'll look like it's meant to move. Otherwise, the stuff's very stationary. Nothing's moving on it. Now, of course, I've got to mention the voice acting. This actually has a pretty damn big, pretty star-spangled cast. It has the English voice actors of Jenny Simone, Christian Bale, Lauren Bacall, Blythe Danzo, Emily Montemare, Josh Hutchinson, and Billy Crystal. One of note is Christian Bale there. He's not exactly known for his voice acting work. At least I don't know in many of his voice acting roles, but he plays Howl. And of course, I may as well get it here. This is where he made the Batman voice. Like, he does the Batman voice here, so technically it's the Howl voice, because he does it for Howl, who, due to his magic, he is actually turning into a bit of a monster. And he does the, I'm a monster, I'm Batman. Like, I was half expecting him to go, I'm Batman. He does have the Batman voice in this, which I must admit I laughed at, but it's there. You're not going to do much else with it. And yeah, that's about he does that, and this is the debut of the Batman voice. People, if you want to see where it came from here. Now I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can say. Every other actor does their job. The voice acting is good. There are some instances where the voice acting is a bit of a like sometimes Bale was a little too on it. Bill Christie, he plays a little fire demon. Billy Crystal is he's annoying. He gets a bit of a pain in the ass, but he's bearable. Sophie does a decent job. The voice actress does. I'm sorry, I don't know. I couldn't recognize her voice, and I can't recognize her name here, so I don't know who she voices. But I'm assuming it's Jenny Simone's. Both her voices, which is her old voice and her young voice, mostly her old voice, they're done really good, and they're definitely enjoyable for that. Every other voice is done good. There are some instances where it's a bit cringeworthy, but that's to be expected in any kind of animation, in my opinion. But really, most of the voice acting is done really well and is overall okay. The music it suits it. There's no really any standalone tracks that made me go, huh, I would love this on my iPod. And normally when I watch an anime or any kind of animation, there's always one soundtrack or track from that movie that makes me go, huh, I want that on my iPod. Not really much with Howl's Moving Castle. The music does its job, it sets this scene, but there's no really any standout tracks in my opinion. Even the ending credit song is okay. So overall the music does its job, there's no really any standout tracks, in my opinion. Now, is there anything else I can say about this? It's a Miyazaki film. Like, you'll know by the instance you'll see Miyazaki. In my opinion on Miyazaki is I haven't seen a lot of his work, I'm going to be honest. This is probably only maybe the second or third Miyazaki film I've ever seen, but he does have that unique style to him that whenever you see it, you'll be like, that's Miyazaki. He has that unique style to him. And I don't know what it is, it's just the way he does it. It's very childlike, also mature. Like, he doesn't... like. One problem I've got with a lot of anime standalone films is whatever message they're trying to portray, they're always shoving it in your face. It's always a problem I've had with any kind of anime. This one with me is Howl's Moving Castle especially isn't forcing the message in front of you. The message is there and they're portraying it with the characters that are there. So I like that about Miyazaki. His messages are never thrown right in your face. His messages are there, but they're there for the right reasons. They aren't just thrown in your face, which I like. I like that about him. He's really good at that. However, there are some issues here or there. Some parts you were like, really? Did you have to show that scene? And a couple of wee bits here or there. But overall, it says Howl's Moving Castle is an entertaining one. Is it the best I've seen of Ghibli? Probably not. I'm going to say I prefer it over Grave of the Fireflies because it is rather entertaining and enjoyable. And Christian Bale does do a decent job and all the other cast as well do. I really only have a couple of things. It's mostly nitpicks. Like, as I say, is my one nitpick I always have is like, it's very obvious what's meant to have some kind of motion in the anime. If it's not meant to fucking move, it looks like a painting. That's it. That's the thumb that's always going to be because of budget. Nothing can look everything, but in my opinion, a good anime can hide that or show that this is meant to move, but everything else looks like it's meant to move here. There are some instances in this film where you're watching, you're like, yeah, they must have run out of money at this point because some of the stuff is just flat out stationary. You can go, like, you look at something that's meant to move, and then you look at that, and it's completely different. And you're like, drop a something. And you're like, okay, but that may have just been the style they were going for, but it just didn't appeal to me that much, in all honesty. But I'm not saying Miyazaki's bad. He's a good director. He does what he does, and I gotta give him props for that. It is a very entertaining film, and it is definitely one of Ghibli's best. It isn't their best, as I say, I haven't seen a lot of Ghibli films, so I can't really say which one's the best. But this one, I do hold to a decent standard. And I definitely say that if you haven't checked out Howl's Moving Castle, it's probably worth a watch. If you've seen any other Miyazaki works, I would say check it out. I think it's okay. As I say, it's definitely one of the best ones I've seen in a while. And it's a good standalone one. It wraps up everything quite nicely. I'm not going to lie, the ending does have a bit of sequel bait to it, I'm going to be honest. And that's my main problem with the ending, is it's got a bit of a sequel bait to it, but that's just my opinion. And if I had another nitpick, I'm going to say this right now, the relationship between Sophie and Howl, while it does go over time, it does actually work. It makes sense why these two would end up together, spoiler alert. But it kind of feels a little rushed in some instances. It kind of does. Like, it feels a little rushed. It's almost like love at first sight, that kind of thing. And in all honesty, that bugs the hell out of me. So I might be a bit prejudiced to that bit. But it just feels a wee bit rushed in some instances. And kind of, overall, it makes sense. But you could probably poke a couple holes in it. But I'm not going to do that. Because it's still entertaining, minus those little parts. And I would say, if you like Miyazaki, you've probably already seen this. But if you haven't, definitely give it a check out. I would say that if you're not into the cutesy looking stuff and the messages and all that, I would say probably just skip it. But it's definitely a Miyazaki film, and definitely if you can check it, if you consider yourself an anime fan, probably worth a check out. I would say avoid it if you're not into the cutesy thing, because there's a couple of cutesy moments in this, and a couple of over-exaggerated things here or there. But overall, definitely check it out if you haven't checked it out already. Overall, it's one of Ghibli's best in my opinion, but I can't judge that. And from the Ghibli films I've seen, it's one of the best. But overall, it's an anime movie. It's okay. It's okay, and definitely, I don't regret watching it. That's what I'll say. So, Howl's Moving Castle definitely gets a okay for me. So go check it out if you haven't already. And so let's see what else we're going to do. So we'll grab the magical bag of anime, and let's have a look at what we're going to be reviewing next. So I'm hoping for a big one. Let's have a quick, come on, something good. Give me a series. Give me, and booyah, what have we got? We have Ghost in the Shell, standalone complex. Well, that should be rather interesting. You know what? Since I just pulled out the Ghost in the Shell, why not review it? Let's do a double next time. Ghost in the Shell standalone complex and the 2 Ghost in the Shell films. May as well get one right after the other in this way. Makes sense anyway. And yeah, we've got a bunch of animes left. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 after this. So, in the next installment of Warriors Amateur Anime Analysis, we're going to be looking at Ghost in the Shell, standalone complex. Then after that, the Ghost in the Shell films. Thanks for watching. As always, I'm Scottish Warrior 92. I'll see you all later. Ciao for now.